ready to fight. Hello Internet, and welcome to the Collective Arcana. We're a channel all about tabletop gaming, and today we're going to continue our series on the core classes from Pathfinder 2nd Edition. We are up to Bard now, and just FYI, we're going to talk a little bit about spellcasting. We're not going to cover it too in-depth. We're just going to talk about the special things that bards get as spellcasters, as a spellcasting class, I should say. So if you're curious at all about, any terms that we use or anything like that, most of the general stuff is going to be in our Basics of Spellcasting video, which will be somewhere, one of these corners probably, and definitely down in the description as well. So check that if you want a little more information on something that I talk about. If there's something I mention that we didn't cover in that video or this video and you want more information, as always, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Happy to answer any questions and definitely provide as much info as we can on what is a very fun class. So, the Bard, it's sort of a meme almost in the genre, but it's a support-focused class that is has a lot of flair, is usually going to be, if not the party face, then the party troublemaker. And it is a class that really gives people who like to RP a whole lot to work with. Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go full ham on the bard, and doesn't mean that you have to be a bard if you like to RP. Of course, there's lots of other classes, but this is definitely the sweet spot for a lot of people that like to that have big personalities in real life and want to bring that to the table. So the Bard gets 8 HP per level, including at first level, and of course you add your Constitution and all relevant modifiers for your ancestry and things like that. Their boosted ability is Charisma, which is, definitely, there was no other choice for the Bard, it had to be. Now we're going to go over the starting proficiencies. Bards begin Expert in Perception and will go up to Master at level 11. That means that they start a little ahead of the game than a lot of classes, and they get to that Master Proficiency at a pretty good time. So definitely not going to be caught as unawares as some other classes. For saving throws, bards begin Trained in Fortitude and will go up to Expert at 9th level. For Reflex, they begin Trained as well and will go up to Expert at 3rd level, and then no further increase there. Usually, you'd think they'd get that boost so early there'd be another one, but no, they just want you to be Expert for a while in it. And then for Will, they begin as Experts, will increase to Master at 9th level, and get all the way to Legendary at 17th level, which is the best you can do. I believe all spellcasters, especially after they might have had Errata the Sorcerer, but all spellcasters do get to Legendary will saves, which makes sense. For attacks, bards begin trained in simple weapons and this special package of thematic weapons for the bard that includes the longsword, rapier, the sap, short bow, short sword, and whip. These are all very pretty similar to the rogue list of additional weapons as well. And you begin trained at 1st level. You will go up to Expert at 11th level, and you will gain weapon specialization at 13th level, and you'll gain crit specialization at 11th level, but only while one of your compositions is active, which is sort of a really fun thing. Basically, you've got to have the music going or whatever your inspiration is. It's a nice thematic, just a way to encourage you to do what you were probably already going to be doing anyway. But it's fun. For defenses, bards, they don't come out much better than they do for attacks. They come out with trained in light and unarmored at the start, and they will go up to Expert way at 13th level, and that's where they cap out. So very much a spellcaster in terms of those defenses. For skills, your bard will begin trained in occultism and performance, as well as 4 additional skills plus a number of skills equal to your intelligence modifier. Combine that with your background, and you're potentially looking at a good number of skills for your for your class or for your character. And we'll see as we get into some of the other choices you have for your bard. Being a skill monkey is very much one of the clear possibilities for a bard. So this is our first spellcaster in the series that we've done, and so the way spellcasting works is at the beginning you're going to begin with a level of proficiency for your spell attack and DCs. For Bard, they begin at trained. They'll become expert at 7th level, master at 15th, and legend at 19th. And that, so far, I believe, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe that's universal across all spellcasters except for the little asterisks with cleric. If you go war priest, they have very different proficiency progressions based on the intended role for those two, between the cloistered cleric being the more spellcaster focused and the war priest being the more battle focused. So, how often can you cast spells? Well, it varies a little bit class to class. For Bard, first of all, Bards are spontaneous spellcasters. Definitely check out the spellcasting video if you have questions about exactly what that means. And they begin play with 5 cantrips and 2 first-level spell slots at first level. Now, for each spell slot that you have as a Bard, you gain a spell known. So you would know 2 spells in your repertoire, and then you would know 5 cantrips. So 2 first-level spells, 5 cantrips. And it's important to note that while as you progress, you will always have, well, let's not quite say that, but as you progress, a good guide point will be that you're going to have every level you're going to, as you gain new spell slots from your class progression, and that is on page 98 of the core rulebook. Hopefully we'll be able to get a snippet up on the screen of just that table. But as you gain new spell slots, you'll gain a spell known for each spell slot. While these do seem tied, they are in fact separate. So there are a few class abilities and a few options that you can get to either gain an additional spell slot or an additional spell known, and they do not necessarily come one with the other. So, for example, your Bardic Muse that you choose is going to give you a bonus spell known. It does not give you a bonus spell slot per day, and vice versa. If you get a bonus spell slot from some other source, you do not get a new spell known to go with that slot. You just have more slots to use the spells you already know. So after first level, at every even level, you will gain an additional spell slot of your highest level spell and an additional spell known, because we're going by your, anything on your progression table. You are getting those spells known for spell slots. At odd levels, you're going to gain access to a whole new level of spells, and you're going to gain 2 spell slots for that new spell level, and therefore, as a spontaneous caster, 2 spells known. This will continue all the way up until 10th level spells. 10th level spells are not treated quite the same. It's actually considered a whole separate class ability, and we'll get into that. But up until 9th levels, that tracks. So every even level, you get another spell slot of your highest level. Every odd level, you get access to a whole new level of spells and 2 slots for that new spell level. So that's going to be sort of, how many spells you have per day, but it is not the extent of your spellcasting ability, because in addition to those cantrips and those spell slots that are universal across all spellcasters, there are also focus spells. Now, a lot of classes, not just spellcasting classes, get focus spells. We talk a little bit about those in the spellcasting basics video. For bards, those spells are called compositions, and this is all thematic with the fact that as a bard you're performing. Typically the assumption is an instrument, but it can be dancing, it can be stand-up comedy, it can be whatever you want to do with your character. But you have these focus spells called composition spells. What is unique to the bard that is different than focus spells in general, and is why we're not just saying, oh, you get focus spells and they're called this, is because bards, to my knowledge, are the only class so far that has cantrip focus spells. What that means is that they are not considered part of your cantrips. They are not considered part of your spell slots. They do not burn focus points when you use them. You can use them unlimited number of times all day. Every day they are what you would consider your bread and butter go-to mechanic. And not only is that unique to bards. We expect that it's sort of been said that many witch, hexes, and other abilities will probably go the focus cantrip route, but until the APG comes out here in just a few weeks, until it comes out, we won't know for sure, but that's the expectation. Kind of funny that both the occult classes are, well, I guess witch is no longer default occult, so what do I know, actually? Let's forget I said that. So if you've played previous editions, whether that's Pathfinder 1st edition or 3.5 and 5th edition D&D, you're going to be familiar with all the inspiration spells and effects that bards got in those editions, and that is built into the focus spells, and we'll get into the focus compositions, and we'll get into the specifics and which muse you should take if you want to focus on those inspirations. So I talked about muse a couple of times. What is a muse? A muse is, in game terms, the muse is sort of the impetus that your bard has for what their drive, what makes them go out and become adventurers, fight monsters, tell tales of their deeds. And so the core rulebook features 3 muses. We are getting a 4th muse in the Advanced Player's Guide, and that will be the Warrior Muse, which is going to be very interesting. And we'll sort of get into what that's going to cover. We don't have a lot of details yet, but just based on what we have now, we can definitely sort of project what that's going to look like a little bit. I'm sure there'll be surprises. There always are. So the muses in the book are described as a driving force that compels you to greatness. It could be a deity or any other sort of entity, or even a physical creature. It could be a philosophy. It could be an idea, or it could just be a captivating mystery that you're trying to solve, like Fox Mulder trying to figure out who, what happened to his little sister, but forces him to become, an X-Files guy. So the ones provided in the book are the Enigma Muse. Your muse is a mystery driving you to learn hidden secrets about the universe. So with this, with all muses, you will gain a free first level bard class feat, and you will gain an additional spell known to add to your repertoire. So the Enigma Muse gives you the bonus feat Bardic Lore, and what that does is it gives you a whole special separate lore skill called Bardic Lore, and that's unlike any other lore skill in that you cannot increase it, with your normal skill increases. It is set in stone at trained, but will go up to expert if you get to legendary and occultism skill, and that's it. The benefit of that is that Bardic Lore can be used to recall knowledge on any subject whatsoever, no matter how obscure, how strange. If you have Bardic Lore, you can give it a shot. And that's a pretty elegant way to do it compared to how some previous editions have done it. It's really nice. You just have this one simple skill to roll, to manage on your sheet. You don't have to do a lot of other stuff. So it's great, and it's a very impactful ability. The spell that it gives you is True Strike. It's a very nice, rare-ish, for 2nd edition, single action spell, and that allows you to roll your attack twice on your next attack and take the better of the 2 d20 results. It's very nice for if you're an upfront bard, or if you're ranged attacks as well. And that's the Enigma Bard, and we'll get into some of the things that we won't cover all the feats, of course. We haven't done any of the other videos. We'd be here all day. It'd be a great time for some people, but too much for a lot of others. And I don't want to give away the whole book. But we'll go into some of the feat trees and things there, and how they expound on this idea of this almost sort of mastermind type feel of a character that is sort of always thinking, always trying to be a couple steps ahead. The Maestro is the next muse. And it's a virtuoso that inspires you to greater heights. You will gain the Lingering Composition bonus feat, and that allows your composition, your focus spells, to last a little while after they cast. And that's a great boon. And then there's, we'll get into how later you can have multiples going and how you can have them even combining and intertwining, and that's a very cool thing about that. You also gain the free spell Soothe, which is a nice little ranged heal that is from the occult spell list. One thing to note with all of these bonus spells is that anyone can pick them up. You don't have to be a Maestro Bard to get Soothe, but you do have to be a Maestro Bard to get Lingering Composition. The final muse is the Polymath, and your muse is a jack of all trades. You want to be able to flirt with and dabble in all sorts of different things. You gain the Versatile Performance class feat, which is very cool. It allows you to use performance in place of a few other skills like intimidation and to demoralize, and diplomacy to make an impression, and deception to pretend to be someone. You're an actor. You're just going to fake it till you make it, sort of thing. And then the spell that you get with that is Unseen Servant, and that allows you to create a sort of unseen little invisible lackey to do some simple tasks for you. At 3rd level as a bard, you're going to get access to signature spells. This is something that so far, both of the spontaneous spellcasters that we've seen, the bard and the sorcerer, gain access to this. I didn't include it in the other video just because it's not guaranteed. It is, in fact, listed as a class feature. So with signature spells, beginning at 3rd level, that's when you get access to 2nd level spells. You get to pick a spell for each spell level you have access to from your spell list, from your spell repertoire, and you get to know every version of that spell. To understand what that means, definitely get the in-depth version at the basics of spellcasting. But functionally, as a spontaneous spellcaster, you know fewer spells than, say, prepared spellcaster, but this really widens your access to not just different spells, but specifically different versions of spells. It's something that is really fun to play with when you're building your spellcaster and deciding which spells have the best, take the best advantage over the heightening. And then, because with Spontaneous Caster you can select a higher level version of a spell, you don't have to select the base version. So what that means is if there's 2 first level spells that you really would like to be signature spells that you can heighten back and forth, you can select the 2nd level version of a spell as your 2nd level signature spell and know the 1st level version all the way up to whatever the cap is there. So it's a really versatile way to get around the core limitation of being a spontaneous spellcaster. At 19th level, you get Magnum Opus, and that's a big gap between 3rd level and 19th level. Your proficiencies and things, do go up at different levels. And your big thing is going to be getting access to spells every other level. But in terms of just core class abilities, this is what you're getting. You're filling it out with feats and everything. But that's why you see a big jump. And a lot of the spellcasters do this. They just have these huge gaps in between what they get because having access to focus spells, regular spells, class feats, it's plenty, I promise. So the Magnum Opus is what gives you access to 10th level spells. You get 1 10th level spell slot, no more, no less, that's it. There is a 20th level feat for all spellcasters to gain an additional 10th level spell slot. It's the be all end all of your class. Get a second 10th level spell slot. Do yourself a favor. Go check out these 10th level spells. They are wild. They are very powerful. Sometimes they feel like they're combining several 7th, 8th, and 9th level spells into one. They're brutal. They're strong. They're the reason they're so limited. However, while you only have 1 10th level spell slot, you do get to know 2 spells. You get to add 2 spells to your spell repertoire. Of course you can only cast 1 of them per day, but it's nice to have the option. And that is pretty much the peak of what you're guaranteed to get as a bard. And those 10th level spells, unlike any other spell slot that you get, you can't combine them with any ability that would allow you to use a spell without consuming a spell slot. And you can't, there's no feats or items that are going to give you bonus 10th level spells or allow you to recover 10th level spells except that singular 20th level class feat. Alright, so what are we getting with these class feats? Every even level as a character in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you get access to a class feat. And with Bard, you're going to see there are a large number that are specific to the muse that you chose, and there are quite a few that are wide open. Whichever both types of feats can cover things like just improving abilities that you have to giving you new compositions or focus spells. There's a pretty wide range of non-muse specific focus spells, but specifically the Maestro is the one that's going to get all the inspirations. And the Maestro is going to be the one that's able to combine those and make the most out of those. And that's what the Maestro does. It is the party buff machine. The fact that so many of those composition cantrips or composition spells are composition cantrips and can be used at will, and the fact that so many of them are single action means that you can get several of them up as needed. You can get one up and still have time to cast a more meaningful, more powerful spell. You can get into position, fire off a short bow, and get a spell off. It's a lot of action economy that you get with that Maestro Bard, especially when you begin to combine lingering composition and harmonize, and you have several of these things going at once, and you're just stacking buffs on your party, and that is very cool, very strong. I think for me, it probably is the most Bard feeling of the three muses. But something can be said for the Enigma as well. That Bardic Lore is very thematic to bards as well. It's a little strange that it's tied to the Muse, but by doing so and allowing you to expand on that and build on that, they do some really wild stuff with that. There's a 14th level feat called True Hypercognition. For a single action in a round, you can roll 5 recall knowledge checks. That is insane. You can look around the battlefield and just, I want to know about that and that and that and that and that. And you're probably going to succeed because you've got the Bardic Lore skill, and you've got the occultism, which covers a surprisingly wide range of things as well. And that's a very fun class that is, really beneficial to the party in and out of combat, whereas the Maestro is mostly beneficial within combat. And then you have the Polymath Bard, which is very much a sort of it's the most traditional spellcasting focused of the bards. You have a lot of options for gaining. You can gain a spell book that has spells that you can trade in and out of your spell repertoire every day. You gain the ability to change your signature spell every day with feats in the Polymath tree. It's a very spellcasting focused muse. And so that's really what the three do. You have the Enigma that is, again, those lore checks and that knowledge, that expert type feel that a lot of the bardic knowledge, if something weird happens, there's a chance you can identify it or, at least have an anecdote about what that is. You have the Maestro that is really controlling the pace of the battlefield, orchestrating, telling their allies, not necessarily what to do. You can't designate their actions, but giving them buffs and making them more likely to, to do the crazy thing or whatever needs done, you can help them do it. And then the Polymath that is very much the most versatile of the three as far as a spellcaster goes. So overall, what do we think of the Bard? The Bard is the quintessential support class for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. While other classes may be able to do better battlefield control or have more unique tricks in their pocket, like a wizard, there are definitely better healers in the game, like the cleric. There are definitely characters that can do a better job of focusing both on spellcasting and combat, like the druid or spellcasting and melee combat, like the druid and the war priest. But in terms of one-stop shop to keep your party banging on all 8 cylinders, you cannot beat the Bard. They definitely don't have the oomph that some of the other classes have, but what they lack there, they make up for in wide versatility and really unique abilities. And those 3 muses are very distinct ways to differentiate one bard from the next. They do not feel, at least to me, I haven't had the chance to play them yet, but just looking at how they work, I don't see you really feeling the same. I don't really see an Enigma Bard feeling that similar, honestly, to like a Maestro Bard. They're going to feel very different, both for you and for your party, just because what they're doing each round is going to be so different. The Bard, in addition to, being just really well-rounded, as far as spellcasters go, I think they are top of the charts in terms of action economy, especially the Maestro Bard and its ability to combine. But I mean, also the Enigma Bard making 5 recall knowledge checks. I mean, that's 5 monsters that you could be learning weaknesses of or resistances, allowing you and your party to make the most of a situation and potentially turn what could be a very bad fight into a much easier one. And then, just the ability to, on a given day, say, for the Polymath to say, I'd rather have better access to this spell or access at all to this group of spells. It's a great, flexible class. It's a very potent class where every single round you're going to have big choices on what to do and how best to aid your allies. Definitely not necessarily the star of the show, which feels weird maybe to some people who are, thinking about how big the personality is of a bard. But it's very subtle, the art of what a good support class does, and the bard is an extremely well-built example. So it's sort of tradition here to talk about what we know is coming in the APG. Really, all that we know is we're getting a 4th muse, the warrior. I'm expecting it to have a lot of abilities from the 1st edition Scald, which was sort of a battle bard, that could actually give rage to allies, like as if it were inspiring courage, as well as a number of other fun abilities. But it's very much a combat-focused bard. We might see wider range of martial weapons added to that bard the list of specific bardic weapons. We might even see something sort of like the doctrines that cleric get. We might see a little improvement to the attack or defenses of the bard. What we know we're going to see is some unique cantrips. We're going to see one that will allow you to, whenever you're inspiring your allies, you can actually give one of the affected allies a free strike that uses up their reaction for the round. So, assuming we're going to see some more stuff like that, it's going to be a very... it seems like it has the potential to be a very... very dynamic class in combat, turning situations from bad to good very quickly. And so I think that's very interesting. I love the idea of the sort of warrior poet, Scald / very Norse mythology class. So I'm really excited to see that. We also know that all spellcasters are going to see huge new options just in, not just in number of focus spells, but number of actual spells added to all traditions. So that's going to be very big, and it's just another reason to look forward to that advanced player's guide. So that is the Bard. That is everything. If you have any questions, if there's something I skimmed over too fast, or if I was wrong about something, definitely let us know down in the comments. Next up, if I have my alphabet right, is going to be the champion. And the champion's a little weird situation for us because we did 2 champion videos already. Champion is one of my all-time favorite Paladin was one of my all-time favorite classes. And I did a video about not being sure about the choices for the Pathfinder 2nd edition. It was before definitely when I was on the fence about ever using Pathfinder 2nd edition. But then after taking a little time with it, especially seeing it in play, I really came around on the champion. So we did another video where I sort of rebutted myself, I guess you could say. And talked about, how you can... How there's more to the champion than meets the eye, because I just initially thought that it was only a defensive class, and it really is. That's what the chassis is. So we'll go into that I don't want to gobble up the Bard's video and do a fourth champion video, but so I'm not sure what the champion video is going to look like. Is my point? We're definitely going to go play by play. I'm just not sure how much analysis we're going to do at the end. Probably a little bit because I like to ramble, as you can see, but it may not be as long as some of the other videos, and we'll just point you to the other ones. After that will be Cleric, and then we're just going to continue on the line. So hopefully you're enjoying these. Hopefully, if you're a new player, you're getting something out of it, and hearing things that you might like about the class as we do these. And stick around for the rest. We're really excited to do them. Once we finish them, we're of course going to do the new classes for the Advanced Player's Guide. And so that'll be, I think, really interesting to go back and see, compare those. So hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys are enjoying. Thanks so much for watching. Welcome to Collective, and we'll see you next time.